Welcome to Mick and the Psychic, where we leave no stone unturned as we explore all things outside the apparent physical realm.
There is no intent to teach or make you believe or disbelieve anything. It is just a safe space to listen and explore with us.
So for this next episode, you have permission to open your heart and mind as you join myself and Xavier on this deep dive into the unknown.
Like the bad behaviors and things like that is because we're all a bunch of space cadets right now. We're stuck in the head, we're off in the ethers, and we're not grounded. So Taurus sun is saying, come back down to earth. And Mercury is retrograding and saying, look at all this space I'm creating.
Today, we have the Soul Stylist with us, Sharon Rose. And Sharon is an intuitive lifestyle educator and the director of intuitive guidance at the Southwest Institute of Healing the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts in Tempe, Arizona. Sharon, amongst so many other things, is an intuitive yoga teacher, intuitive astrologist, and she's here to share with us about all things intuitive astrology and probably a whole lot of other stuff, including the stuff on her website. I've seen as well, Sharon, you've got all sorts of, you do all sorts of events and things as well. So Sharon, welcome to the show.
Yay. Thank you. Yay. I'm so happy to be here. It's been so great to chat with you already. This is so fun.
I know. And we've only just started.
Lucky we weren't recording before. We were teaching how to say Australia properly and
yeah.
Oh, amazing.
And we taught her that Sharon here is affectionately known as Shazza. So yeah, you have a new Aussie bogan name. You're welcome.
Shazza.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like a Shazza though. I don't know.
no, that's wonderful. It's a much loved Aussie name. So before we turn you into an Aussie bogan, it'd be great to hear. I don't know where to. Exie, where do we start?
Where do we start?
Sharon,
well, I was really excited when we connected with you because I saw a whole list of different things you do, and then I saw intuitive astrology, and I'm like, I'm an intuitive healer. And I channel and things, and I'm like, what's an intuitive astrologer? I'm curious. I want to know what that is because we never had an astrologist on here before, let alone an intuitive astrologer. Can you please fill me in?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So I love astrology. So I'm an astrologer, right? And astrology is innately an intuitive divination practice, like the tarot, oracle card reading, Reiki,
Yes.
When you're intuitively knowing where to place your hands and things like that. But what I do and I specialize in is I could have a session with you where I look at your birth chart and I look at the chart of what's going on in the day. And then I can just read, I channel the same way you would with cards or anything, but specifically looking at your birth chart and the planets and the combinations and the conjunctions and all those different types of things to essentially give you a reading, an intuitive reading, and support you with some guidance.
Of course, that makes so much sense. So yeah, combining because you're already intuitive and you can just combine it with that modality. And then the client would be getting more out of their session because you know exactly what they need to hear and what area you need to focus on. Because astrology goes forever. It's just so big. It's not just about your sun sign, isn't it? It's so much more.
Your sun sign is it's a big piece, but it's not the biggest piece. It's just, it's the combination of everything together is what makes up your unique cosmic blueprint. We can look at individual things. If you're to look at the sun and the moon, for example, so your sun is your dominant personality, what you're interested in, how you show up and what you like to experience in the world and how you like to experience it. And then your moon reflects the sun. So the moon handles the body, the emotions, day-to-day habits and routines. And so if you know your sun sign and you know your moon sign is there to support your sun sign. It reflects back the shadows and the light of your sun sign, and then in whatever house, and then as it's associated with any other planets. So it's really just this beautiful. So if you were to come in with a question or just asking for general guidance or anything like that, it's just intuitively, where does my awareness and consciousness land on your chart? And then it's telling a story.
So are you saying that the sky is basically a whole lot of tarot cards? So the tarot, all the different tarot cards have certain meanings and you understand those meanings, but the magic is not in the card and the meaning. The magic is in the interpretation of that with the person that's in front of you.
Exactly. Yeah, it 100%. It's so unique to each individual and then to each day, because, you know, we're always, the planet's moving. And so the stars are moving. Well, we're moving and the stars, we're all moving, space-time continuum style. And so it's always unique and different. Right. And so like today we have a Sagittarius moon. And so if you have a prominent Sagittarius placement, like I'm a Sagittarius sun. So like I love anything expansive, transpersonal, philosophy, travel, learning about other cultures. And like literally this was, I didn't plan this.
Yes, that's just what you, that's the obvious. That's what you know the world. Is that what the sun one is? Yeah. Like, okay. Love it.
Yeah. So it's just, I didn't plan it. It just happens intuitively. And the more you're connected with astrology, the more you can just kind of handle things that happen in the day to day. Cause it's like, you know, we got Mercury retrograde going on right now. If you know that, you can just be a little bit more conscious and aware about your behaviors, understanding other people are probably unaware. So making yourself even more mindful, like when driving or signing contracts or sending emails and all that kind of stuff, like double check your work right now, especially if you have a Gemini placement. That's a big one right now.
The Gemini placement. Sorry.
We're going back to Australia again, where Shazza would park her Gemini somewhere in the backyard. That's a Bogan car as well, the Gemini. So the Holden Gemini, so very good. I presume you're not talking about the Holden Gemini placement in the backyard. You're talking about Gemini as the sign, right?
The sign, the zodiac, yeah.
Can you explain that? What do you mean by Gemini?
You say Gemini placement, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So like in our natal charts, everyone has a unique natal chart that is based off of where you were born and the time that you were born and the place you were born. Those are the three big things: time, place, and date. And what happens is that a unique chart is born in the moment that you are born. And so all of the planets, so it's from the perspective of standing on Earth and then watching us orbit around the sun and our connection to all of the other planets. So Einstein, in his general theory of relativity, proved that everything in space and time is connected and they affect one another. And we, like in the most basic way, know that it's true just from being here, because we know that the moon affects the tides, right? Like that's the easiest and most common way that we can say like we are affected by the planets. And so with a Gemini placement, it's just basically saying like, where does Gemini land in your chart? So for me, the only Gemini I have in my chart is my ascendant. So your big three, what people call the big three in astrology, is your sun, your moon, and your rising. And so your sun, we talked about, it's like your big personality, the things you're interested in, how you show up. Your moon is your day-to-day habits, your body, your emotions, kind of what keeps you going each and every day. And it supports the expression of the sun. And then your ascendant is like really what other people see of you. Like, so we see ourselves showing up in one way. Our ascendant people say, hey, I see you in this way. And it's just, are you self-aware of that? Right. So Geminis, very communicative, love to talk, exchange information. It's an air sign, very intellectual, big on understanding all perspectives. It's the twin. So like yin and yang and shadow and light. So it likes to understand all of the different perspectives around the twin tower, like around the towers, right? It wants to know everything. Not for like being right. Like it's sometimes Geminis get like a bad rap of like being like the evil twins or stuff like that, or like, but really it's just like they see and understand all the different perspectives. And so with that being my ascendant, which is the first house, basically a big part of a first house is personality. When you work yourself around the natal wheel, it starts with the personal signs of like closest to home to you. And then it moves all the way out to like the cosmic in the 12th house, in the house of spirituality. And so like my first house is dominated by Gemini energy, which is just talk and communication. And I'm a public speaker. And so like everything that I do, but what does it support? It supports my big heart and my big expansive mind of Sagittarius, right? Like everything that my moon and my ascendant does is to support the general personality of a Sagittarian. So that's kind of like how those three work together. So if you know those three, you can go real far in life.
I forget my ascending. I just know my sun and moon.
You can find it out. Oh, if you knew it, I would love. What's your sun and moon?
I'm a Scorpio sun and Virgo moon.
Ooh, very back to back. So wait, did you just have a big experience with this full moon the other day?
Oh, I think I do always, but yeah.
Well, actually, I wonder if it's the same. So this is something I've been really curious about because we're obviously in opposite hemispheres.
Yes.
We had a full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio last night. Did you also have that?
Yes.
Not last night.
Not last night, but the night
2
before.
weeks ago, wasn't it? Oh, full
No,
moon.
it's the day
Oh,
before.
sorry. I'm an idiot.
We're just
Full
a
moon.
day ahead. We're a day ahead. So it was a lunar eclipse in Scorpio as well for us. So even though it's the other side. Yeah.
I always wondered. I need to look at. So I wonder, is like it the same in the southern hemisphere? These are because
I thought the lunar eclipse happened on our new moon.
Does it?
I thought
Well,
I
everyone's
thought
talking about it, so maybe it's not the lunar eclipse. It's a
different one.
gosh, I don't even know.
Wow.
Well,
I wonder if
opposite, but it was definitely in Scorpio. Okay. Someone correct us in the comments. I know
Yes.
that when you might celebrate like spring equinox, obviously our season's different, so we celebrate the opposite. So you know, in Halloween we're decorating with pumpkins and stuff too, but it's the wrong season. Like it doesn't make sense.
I live in Arizona, so no holidays make sense here. It's,
okay, right.
Christmas, it's like 95 degrees outside.
Yeah. So then it gets confusing because people will share generic things about Beltane, the different seasons, but it's not for us. It's the American.
Yeah.
But yes, it's like actually we're the opposite at the moment. Yes, we just celebrate different things. So maybe it was. Maybe I'm just saying yes, it was because other people shared lunar eclipse, and I just remember it was a full moon in Scorpio. So
yeah, interesting. Okay, so I have no idea. That's weird. We probably should know that.
We should know.
I actually have an understanding mechanically as to whether or not line up.
The lunar eclipse would reveal. Is that revealing more? Like, what does it mean?
What's it do
for lunar eclipse?
So, eclipses. Eclipses are so powerful. So the eclipses come in essentially like 6-month and 18-month cycles, and they work within. So we just moved into a Taurus Scorpio eclipse season, and so basically the energy is like super uber powerful. It transcends past like the normal 3 days before, 3 days after, carrying the energy forward. It's big for manifestation, big for creation energy. And so whatever you were doing during the time of like the peak full moon eclipse, it's like, you know, a lot of people are unintentional about it. But those of us who are intentional about it, like we get to harness the energy of that lunar eclipse. And whether you're outside charging crystals or hiking or whatever you're doing, to the intention that you pour into that to like that timing is what you're going to see manifest. Mind, thoughts, energy, actions, beliefs, all of those different types of things are what you're going to see play forward. And so in 6 months, when we are at a full moon in Taurus during Scorpio sun, and that's when we'll see another experience like this. So it's just really high energy. Like full moons already carry this big energy. Obviously, like it's the womb, it's full, it's about celebrating. And then in the days after the full moon, it's about releasing and letting go and shedding and, you know, just allowing things to move out.
Did a lot of that. I've just got to say, I just quickly looked it up, and it says Australia will miss out on the eclipse this time, but it will be seen in the Americas. So we just don't see it, but it's still technically, that's what they're saying.
But it's still the energy.
But we will see a blood moon on the night of November 8th. So it's like, the energy, but we don't visually see it because it's just seen on the other side, but you still call it the same thing, apparently.
Cool. Yeah, it was beautiful.
It's still happening, just on the other side of the planet.
Yeah, so we don't witness it, but it's still the energy of it, so it'll still count for everybody.
Yeah. And
okay, all right, that makes sense.
It still counts. It still counts. Definitely still counts. But that's cool. So then the energy was that of, so we have a Taurus sun. And so with the Taurus sun, it's the sign of the mother earth, sensuality, activating of pleasure and joy through feeling, touch, taste, smell, the senses, like receiving that divine guidance and really like getting cozy, like doing that, like self-love, coziness, like doing things to take care of yourself and anything you do to like connect with Mother Earth. That's the Taurus energy. And then we have like the Scorpio energy. Scorpio is about deep trust. It's deep waters, deep transformation. resonates with Lilith energy, Lilith being, you know, death, rebirth, sex cycle, over all of that. And so these two signs, they work well together because they're a water and an earth sign, you know, so those two signs go really well together. But there was some big feelings during this, like, because it was bigger, it was a super moon, blood moon. And so deep transformation around the energy of nurturance, around mothering. And we all, you know, mother ourselves in some capacity. And so whatever that means to you, but big energy around taking care of yourself and around learning to trust yourself, and whatever transformative cycle needs to be created in order for you to come to that place in the next 6 months. That is big energy that we just are still in. It's still like,
yeah, because a few days after.
yeah.
So when you said like the energy in Taurus at the moment, so despite your star sign or star signs, you would still feel that energy because that's in the air, or that's the energy at the moment. Would you feel it more if you are a Taurus or a Scorpio?
Yeah.
Or like if it's that, do you feel it more, or is it just you get a little bit of it for everybody? How's it work?
So everybody has every sign in their chart. So in your natal chart, there are 12 houses and there are 12 zodiac signs in tropical astrology. There are other systems of astrology. I study tropical astrology. So there are 12 houses and there are 12 zodiac signs, and each house is ruled by a specific zodiac sign. And so based on, again, your specific natal chart, it tells you what house is ruled by what. And each of the houses represent a different area of life, essentially. So like I said, the first house is the house of like your personality. It's your inner fire. It's your ego. It's kind of, you're born into your first house. So it's the first thing that you develop. And then as you move around the chart, you move through relationships with friends, with family, with self-expression, with sexuality, with career, with identity, with, you know, social justice and being a part of the greater community as you move through like Aquarius and things like that. You move all the way around, you go through the occult and religion, all the way around to your house of spirituality in the 12th house. And so whatever house of yours is ruled by, let's say Taurus, is going to be affected. Now, for someone like me, Taurus rules my 12th house. I have no planets in my 12th house. And so in my personal spirituality, I'm very grounded. Like I have all of that Taurus energy around my connection to my spirituality. There's no planets influencing it at all. So it's just that house plus the zodiac sign that rules it. Those are the characteristics that will create my personal identity around it, right? So if you guys have planets in whatever house is ruled by Taurus, then you would also have the characteristics of the planets identifying that personality within you.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a puzzle.
That makes sense when people say, oh, I didn't really, like some people don't feel affected by what's going on and others do. So maybe that's partly like intuitive and being in touch with noticing that kind of stuff. And then also you might not have any planets, so it's not affecting you and you're just cruising.
You're just chilling. It might not affect you at all.
Yeah.
And that's why I love astrology, because it's so unique. And, you know, that's why some people say, oh, you can't, like astrology is not real because like it's not consistent, but it's actually incredibly consistent. What is inconsistent is human beings.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like a blanket. If you use it as like a blanket statement that, you know, Capricorns are stubborn and blah, blah, blah. You can do like blanket statements, and then people can go, oh, well, you know, anyone could identify as being stubborn or whatever, but you're not being specific like you are, where it's like, no, you got to do a full chart and what this means to actually get the benefit out of it rather than the McDonald's version.
Exactly. Like, sure, Capricorns are stubborn, but I'm going to tell you and they could say, oh, I'm not stubborn, I'm not a Capricorn, but I'll be like, okay, but in this specific area in your life, which would be identified by the house, how are you stubborn? Like, right. So it's like, that's the part, is like, we talk about the signs a lot. We talk about the planets a lot, but the houses don't like, that's where everything lands. That's what makes it specifically you.
Yeah. I've got so many questions. I don't know where to go because I don't want to throw it off too far.
I'm just remembering stuff.
I guess like what you're kind of talking about, there's a lot of like opportunity for people to experience a certain thing. So if people take it on board or not, if they're not aware of it, like I'm not aware of half the stuff that's going on I probably lose some opportunity to harness that energy, or I accidentally use it for something negative towards me than good. You studied a lot around rituals and ceremonies that women used to do, like in the mysteries behind that. How important is it to be able to harness these things through certain rituals or ceremonies? Does it work? Like, does it work at certain times, or like, what did you find in that
month and stuff? And has that come in?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
oh, it works. So because that's the whole thing, is like you create rituals when you know the astrological energy is in alignment and strong. Okay. So like each day of the week is ruled by a different sign. And so there are different days that are good for doing different spells. And when you're doing ritual like new moon, when there's no moon in the sky, right? Dark moon, when there's no moon in the sky, that is a good time for just being, clearing off your altar, clearing out your spaces, not setting intention, not just being with, contemplating, reflecting, journaling, writing, whatever your process is, but just clearing out and being with what has been. When that first little slice of pie, that's what I like to call it, that silver little slice of pie in the sky, that's the new moon. And that is when you want to set your intentions. That is the first sign that we are taking off. We are starting to wax towards those bigger cycles of the moon where the energy is growing. So from new moon to full moon is all about pouring energy in and creation and like energizing things. Celebrate on the full moon, and then it's all release, reflect on the way back down to the dark moon. And so we have these rituals literally every month that we can do. If you want to take it more specific, and I love this for myself, is lunar astrology, which essentially is I look at where the moon is every single day. And based on the sun sign, which only changes every 28 days or so, your moon sign changes about every 2.5 to 3 days. And so the lunar cycles have a much deeper effect on human beings, our psyche, our mental health, our physical health, how we show up. And it's when you know what's going on, when you know where the moon is, if you only take away, I'm going to look at where the moon is in the sky every day, and I'm going to understand the qualities of the sign that it's in, watch how your days will start to shift. Because it affects, especially in children and kids, because they are just so with the flow of the moons and the stars and all that. You'd be really, really surprised. Like I said, today the moon was in Sagittarius. I'm a Sagittarius sun. And so like when I realized I didn't plan that, like I didn't plan to have this call with you tonight, but it has been a day where I have been sharing. I've been on like 4 or 5 different calls today. And like, that's just a testament to like, yeah, I'm here to share and all about this kind of stuff, like sharing my gifts, talking about bigger worldly topics. And it's like, I didn't plan it. It just aligned that way.
Perfect.
Had I planned it on purpose, that would have been pretty cool too, though.
Yeah.
So depending on so obviously the cycle of the moon, so whether it's, on the waxing, the, to crescent, what is it, gibbous, and then full moon, and then waning back the other way. Oh, there we go. So for those who can't see,
you guys think I like astrology much?
I love it. We've got the moon cycle tattoo on the arm.
For the listeners, yeah, she's
lovely.
Virgo
and that is that a start?
Yeah, so that's Sagittarius. Yeah. And then I'm like, how can I get you to see Virgo? So that's Virgo and Sagittarius.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing. Okay, there we go. So we've got some star constellations on there too. Someone will think that someone was just doing dots of dots on your arm that doesn't actually understand star constellations, but that's fine. That's up to them.
They don't need to know.
They don't need to know. Yeah. We're all at different levels. So with that moon cycle, depending on where you're at with that moon cycle, depends on what sort of activities you should be doing or where your energy should be going into.
100%. Absolutely. Okay. And like back in the day, like in historical times, when countries and nations were going to war, they used lunar astrology to plan their strategies. Like the solar calendar and the Gregorian calendar didn't come into play until much later in history. Wow. They marked and had a lunar calendar because it was even for agriculture, it was easier to track the moon because it changed every couple of days, where the sun stayed stationary for a month. And so the moon cycles and watching where the moon is a huge, I mean, even, you know, women's cycles, we track by the moon.
Yeah.
And so it's a beautiful natural way to track time, to track changes, to track seasons. It's all done by the moon. All
I
done by the
remember
moon.
looking into that. I intuitively was guided to look into the moon cycles and menstruation. And the time I looked into it was when I was in cycle that I was menstruating when it was the full moon. And I was like, oh, wow. And I learned what that means as opposed to when you do that with the new moon. And one's more about fertility, one's not, or it's a different stage in your age. And it's very interesting. And I know I bought a book for a friend about, she loved gardening. And it was about planting to do with the moon cycles.
I love that.
Like,
I have a book like that.
Oh, cool. So there's times when it's better to plant. People cut their hair if they're trying to grow it out. Don't cut it at certain times of the moon. Yeah, cool. Okay.
Everything's connected.
What's that? So when don't you cut your hair? This is cool.
So, well, you could cut it at a full moon, right? Because
Okay.
it's about releasing and things like that. But if you want your hair to grow out, you wouldn't, well, you could cut it at the new moon as well, if you're setting intention as you're cutting it. So I think your intention like also has something to do with the hair cutting.
I don't know what it's like in Arizona, but in Victoria or in Melbourne, at least, it's pretty hard to get a hair appointment for a woman. Pretty tough to get. So to actually line that up with the cycle of the moon is going to be tricky for some people, I think.
You should be me on the phone trying to line things up for appointments about not signing any new contracts in Mercury retrograde or something. I'm just like, they go, would you want to come over? It's actually, I need to wait it out 3 more days. I can't do it. It's Mercury retrograde. I'm not signing.
Can we get to this? Because I hear so many people blaming Mercury retrograde for their shit behavior and bad organisation.
It's just an excuse. You gotta,
you know,
That is spiritual bypass.
my skeptic,
Yes,
yeah,
don't spiritual bypass.
my skeptical hippo eyes are coming out on this one. Like Mercury
Oh,
retrograde.
please educate me on what it actually means. That's fantastic.
Yes. Let's dive in. So first of all,
Please.
for your friends who are blaming their bad behavior on Mercury retrograde,
Yes.
that is spiritual bypassing, and that is a big no-no. We don't use astrology for that.
Wonderful.
So-
And that's all we have time for on the show. Thank you very much. It's been great having you on, Sharon. And I'm just going to post this to all my friends blaming Mercury retrograde.
Yep, good.
Cool. No,
No,
thanks
so-
for that. Now the stars. What? Okay. I'm joking.
Okay, so Mercury retrograde. Essentially, Mercury is the planet of technology, communication, contracts, information exchange, technology, if I didn't already say that,
Yep.
mechanics, cars, things like that. But it's
Okay.
also ruled by Gemini. And so it's an air sign. And so it's it's heady. It's very space cadet-y. So when like the bad behaviors and things like that, it's because we're all a bunch of space cadets right now. We're stuck in the head. We're off in the ethers and we're not grounded. So Taurus sun is saying, come back down to earth. And Mercury is retrograding and saying, look at all this space I'm creating. So Mercury retrograde is not inherently bad. No retrograde is. What happens in retrogrades is essentially there's an illusion that is created in space where it looks like the Earth is continuing to move forward around the sun. And it looks like whatever planet, in this case, Mercury, that's retrograding, is essentially coming to a standstill. But what's really happening is just a gravitational pull around this part of the sun, and it energetically creates a lot of space. So what happens when there is more space around something? There's room for not only mistakes, but there's room for reflection, right? And so what happens during Mercury retrograde for people who are unaware or who use Mercury retrograde as an excuse is that we get really caught up in our head. And so we're not mindful, we're not present, we're not paying attention. So mistakes or accidents happen a lot more frequently. That's like the human dynamic on it. On the other dynamic of it is that technology just wonks out and it just like does not have a good time. Like I kid you not, day one, Mercury retrograde, my car battery imploded on itself.
Okay.
I brought it, like I had to get a tow to the shop, and the guy was like, you must have good energy, good chi, because he's like, we didn't know if your car was going to start again. And he's like, he literally said the battery self-imploded on itself on the inside. He's never seen anything like that before. I'm like, that's great. My car completely just stopped. Just
One time my
Okay.
DVD player just stopped working. And then I'm like, what the heck, what's wrong with it? Turned it off and on, blah, playing around with it. And I looked at the calendar and realized it was Mercury retrograde. We were contemplating replacing it because it was over like however long it retrograde goes for. The day it finished, it just miraculously started working again.
When did you realize you actually still have a DVD player?
I know, right?
Like, I feel like there's
a couple
more
of years
wrong
ago.
with this. There's more
Now
wrong
we
with
choose a
this story.
PlayStation, okay?
We're gonna take
More
this
wrong with
deeper.
this
Where in
story
your
than
chart
it
does it
didn't
say
work.
you're stuck in 2004?
Old school. I still have VHS. No, I don't. But yeah, like things like that happen all the time, and I don't. So you were saying about the remembering and recycling; those kind of things come up. So I usually encourage people who ask me about what to do in retrograde. It's a time of reflection. Old flames and people that used to know might come back into your life if there's unhealed things that need to happen. Is that what you would say as well? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's that communication piece. So people feel the need to like reach out, like there's more space created. So it's like, oh, this person popped into my mind. Let me reach out to them.
Right.
That's not always necessarily a good thing though. So like, yeah, if you have like people popping in or you have the urge to reach out to someone who you really know you don't want to reach out to, or maybe that you do want to reach out to, right? Like there's no good or bad, positive or negative in this. It's just the awareness and the consciousness around what are you doing and why are you doing it? And what does that look like for you? So yeah, people popping in from the past or you wanting to pop in on people, that is all part of this experience for sure. I actually just, thank you for saying that because I did have that happen this week.
There you go.
I'm actually going out for dinner with friends that we haven't seen for like forever.
Yes.
Like the guitarist from my old band.
That's
And
why.
I was a groomsman for him and everything as well. It's just been so long. And his wife reached out to me last Mercury retrograde and we're catching up. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Look at that.
All right.
You can't make
maybe.
this stuff up.
Maybe. I mean, wow.
Well, yeah, he's got to do the little bit of a skeptical thing. I'm sure he really believes.
It's not a bit. It's not a bit. It's not a part.
Not a
I'm
bit.
just saying maybe. I'm not saying maybe not. I'm saying maybe.
Just teasing you. Just teasing
It's
you.
interesting
Here's
though.
the thing. But astrology doesn't need you to believe in it.
It doesn't.
At all.
No.
Astrology does not care. It's been around
Take
for
it or leave it.
5,000 years.
Yeah.
Been
It's
around
not
for
going
probably
anywhere.
longer. That's right. And
Yeah.
Probably longer.
I'm not saying I don't disbelieve it. I'm just saying, wow, okay, interesting. That's funny. So there is that opportunity. So you find that come up more during a Mercury retrograde than you would normally at other times. Is that space brings that reflection,
Yeah.
consciously or unconsciously? It just happens.
Consciously or not. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's cool. So that's why also when we say maybe not a great time to sign contracts and things is because you said everyone's a bit space cadetty. So because you have to, like I hear the saying, you got to like dot your I's and cross your T's and really check, because you might send an email or text and you've worded it wrong or you didn't check something and you're like, oh, you do more embarrassing things because you are not focused, not grounded. So be careful of all your electronic, because it's ruled by the electronic. Yeah, that's the planet. So check all that stuff. Check your emails before you send them. Check your text, and not just you, the people sending them to you, because you might sign something and they haven't worded something right, and that stuffs it up, and you're more likely to have mistakes and it needs fixing or could go wrong. So that's why I wait. It's not like the best ideal time. If I can wait, I'll delay it till after retrograde.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I try to.
So if you're in real estate, or you're in like legal practice, you should really be very aware. Like obviously you can't just go Mercury retrograde and taking a few weeks off.
Holidays.
Like they have to
you
be
would be
so
surprised.
aware.
You'd be surprised.
Okay. Yeah, right.
People are literally starting to build businesses, and be aware that like astrology was used by and still is used by every government. It is like, this is a practice that has been used, is used in all different types of sects and of like industry and world, politics and news, and like everyone uses astrology. It's been like, think about it. It's been in every newspaper and in its little column. It's been in Cosmopolitan. Like it's just now I feel like being actually welcomed in, and not like we've broken out of the taboo that like, oh, this is fake. And it's just like, actually it's rooted and grounded in science. So
taken seriously. Yeah. Again. Because I mean, how old are the Vedic texts? They're like, I don't know, over 6,000 years old, and that's, do you know what I mean? Like so old. So it's almost like we're kind of trying to relearn.
Yeah.
What else is there? So Mercury in retrograde does that. Is there anything else that retrogrades that affects us, or is there any other planetary thing that?
Yeah. All the
affect us?
planets retrograde at some time. It's
Okay.
how often do they retrograde, because that depends on their planets, right? So a planet like Mercury, which is very close to the
sun.
Earth. Yeah, right. Like we're very near each other 3 times a year for 21 days each. So it's a 3-week cycle 3 times a year. A planet like Pluto, which is like weird. It's like, are you even a planet? We're not really sure, but like you're really far out there. I believe
So
it's a planet.
disrespectful, isn't it?
Pluto.
I know.
It's so disrespectful.
It's a planet.
Oh man, can't
Love
we just
Pluto.
call it a planet?
Ruled by Hades, so it's literally hell. So no, it is 12th planet Hades, and so that is why it only 264 years it takes to transit.
Of course. Yep.
So it only retrogrades not very often. So we actually just had a Pluto retrograde. We might still be in it. I think we're still transiting. It's because it's going to be retrograde for a minute. And so all of the planets retrograde. But what happens is like, all right, so I was about to talk about Saturn returns, but that's like a whole nother conversation we could jump into.
Really?
But yeah, so like whatever planet is retrograding, essentially, you're going to start seeing the quality, like space created around the qualities of that planet. And again, you want to look at where is it landing in your chart to know where you're going to be affected by that transit or retrograde.
Okay.
That's what
Right.
personal.
So you need your own chart so you can look at which area and be aware so you can make an allowance for it. And if you shit hits the fan or you feel a bit off or whatever, you can just go, that's right. I just need to be a bit more patient with myself or with people or whatever, depending on the area that it's in.
Exactly.
Love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Yep. It
a
helps you
wonderful
understand
system.
people as well. If you knew all that, you just want to go read everyone's chart. So did you do that when you started learning? You just want to know everybody's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still am. I love astrology charts. I love doing astrology charts. I think it's so much fun. And I really like it because like I also do full natal reports. So it's, you know, if I look at your chart, I could write a report for your, and I do a basic one because the way I approach astrology for like everyday people is practically, like I think of it as practical astrology. I want you to be able to use the astrological information in a way that is going to create a better experience for you in your day. You don't need to know about conjunctions and sextiles and quinces
So
and
glad
like all of these different types of things. Like it's way overwhelming. And like, I get that. And when I was first starting to study astrology, like that stuff was just like way over my head. So I chose to focus on, okay, what is the practical application of astrology in my day-to-day? And that is when I really started looking at what is the chart of the day, and then where does my chart and how do these things work together? And that is really how I trained myself. So that way it's like, I can deliver it to you in a way that you can understand.
Oh, that is so refreshing. I've read my charts before and I don't remember any of it because there's so much of that technical jargon and my eyes just glaze over and I lose interest because it doesn't make sense to me. So this is exciting.
Jupiter, 16 degrees conjunct, sextile, moon, Mars.
Whatever.
It's not important if you're not the astrologer. That's important to me. It doesn't need to be important to you.
Exactly. Thank you. People are excited to book in like with you now to get a reading done that makes sense. That's great.
Yes. Oh, I would love to do a reading for you. That'd be so fun.
Yes, I'm done.
I love it.
Yeah, right. Writing it down. Make a note.
Yeah, I reckon it's so interesting because it is a bit overwhelming because it's even talking about the different houses and what that means. And then you think, okay, so where the star constellation was from the position of where I was born is so important. You got sun and the moon and then planets in retrograde. Like there's so much stuff. I mean, but how does it help you to understand what that means at your current time? Because obviously it changes, right?
Your natal chart doesn't change.
The natal chart doesn't change, but but you change as well, surely.
How do you keep up with it every day? Like trying to figure out what you should be doing.
Really easy.
Okay.
It's actually super easy. So to keep up with it every day literally takes me like 15 minutes as part of my morning routine. Like I say, well, so like, and it's pretty easy, right? So it's like, I know that the moon is in Sagittarius today. It was in Sagittarius yesterday. So at some point tomorrow, it's going to move into Capricorn, right? It might be void of course for a couple of hours, but I know that we're moving into Capricorn energy. Capricorn's my moon. So this is a really great time of the week for me to get things, or month for me to get things done. And so the way that I use it is like, it's literally just like that. Okay. Right. So like, I know when it is a Capricorn moon that if I'm not working, I'm only ever thinking about working because it's my moon. So it's my day to day, and Capricorn is a sign that is driven for success. It's an extremely reliable sign. It is a sign that it's the mystical sea goat. So it's half like fish, half sea goat. And so it can get really deep into the waters of mysticism and understanding the mysteries of life, but it's also super driven to use that information to succeed in life, right? And so that's my moon sign. So by knowing that and knowing the characteristics of the moon, tomorrow I'll go, okay, well, what house is the moon transiting in? I'll look at my chart, see where the moon is, and then see how that story comes together. But so it's helpful in that you can use it as a self-development tool. You can use it as a character assessment, like Myers-Briggs, right? Like everyone knows the Myers-Briggs. That was developed by a mother-daughter duo who studied Jung psychology. Jung's psychology is based on astrology in a lot of ways. Like he incorporates, so like the most popular personality assessment that's used by corporations, that's used by all, is based on astrology. They just called it something different so it would be more acceptable. But at its roots, it's astrology. And so it's a self-development tool. And when you can look at it, it's again, not about positive, negative, good or bad. And even when we say things like shadow and light side, again, it's not good or bad. It's just, we are all human beings with a full capacity to experience these things. And so when you're aware of those, you get to consciously choose and decide how you're going to use that information moving forward. So by understanding my moon sign, for example, when I started to understand Capricorn energy, I started to understand why on days where I was not working on Capricorn moons, I was so anxious, because if I was out trying to have fun and the energy is like, no, like work, I'm having an internal conflict. So when I know there's a Capricorn moon coming, I put my calendar's booked. I don't hang out on Capricorn moons. I just don't. Those are my work days. But I can tell you that when it's a Taurus moon, I don't like to work. I don't like to work at all. I can tell you when it's an Aries moon, my partner and I tend to argue a little bit more. So I create space between us. He's an Aries moon. So he gets extra fiery when the moon is in the sky too. So during that time, I don't even know if he knows this, but I know this. I consciously take time and space away so that it's, because I saw that pattern and I was like, oh, this is avoidable. I'm going to avoid this. And so it's the way you use the information that supports you in living a aligned lifestyle, essentially. Right. If you know, and you can't avoid it. Obviously, like you can't plan every single detail of your life, like accidents happen and you can't control the outside world and what's going on around you. But you can choose how you're going to show up for it.
Yes.
Big time.
Love that. Love that. I love that you can be more prepared instead of feeling like you're just winging it. Yeah. So you can just prepare. That's a really great way of preparing yourself and just being more aware of what you might need to do. They're creating space to maybe tiptoe a little bit around hubby and have some me time so you don't flare each other up. It's great because then if people who don't know that wonder why in certain months or times they just always seem to argue or they just can't focus on days that maybe because they're trying to work on days that just don't work for them. Like it's just so beautiful feeling a bit more in control in a different way, I guess. So yeah.
Imagine with your kids. Like I have a little niece and nephew. And when my sister calls me and is like, he's going crazy today. And I'm like, let me go look at the moon and the chart. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. He needs extra nurture and Sagittarius in his third house. And like, he just needs that like love and affection today. He doesn't know how to express his identity yet. Like, so you're his identity, mom. He loves you. But it's great for kids.
Yeah. So not wasting your time trying to swim upstream with certain things. It's like, okay, this is going to help with the flow. So it's almost like helping you guide with the flow of things.
Why not do that? Why not just say, I'm going to go with the flow?
Gamers love cheat codes, right? This sounds like a bit of a cheat code. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I'm a gamer, so yes, I understand.
Okay,
They're
this
great.
feels like a cheat code.
You intuitively picked the
It
best
is.
analogy for her.
Have you had people like yell at you because you're hacking? Or it's like, she's hacking,
Who's
she's
gonna yell at
hacking.
me?
I don't know.
Who's
I
gonna
don't
yell
know.
at me?
I'm trying to do a game.
If she just kept it
I'll
to
look at their
herself, then
astrology chart and be like, listen, your Aries is coming out and you need to settle down. Okay. Your Aries in your 7th house, settle down. It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, you're giving them the hack. What are you doing? You're just helping them.
hearing it.
This makes it a fair fight. I feel like we've talked about, well, not all about, because we couldn't possibly, it's not a 12-year podcast. But we've talked a bit about what those, the tarot cards are and what they represent as far as like with the Aries, like what Aries, what the stars kind of mean and the planets. What's the intuitive side? So when you get that, you get someone in front of you. What sort of thing do you have to? You said you channel certain things. Like what happens there? What happens when you sit down with someone?
Ooh, ouch. Sorry, my cat just scratched me.
Yeah, your cat said, don't answer that question.
Like, stay mysterious, stay mysterious. Actually, it's so funny because in my chart, I got one off the internet because I like to see what, I enjoy getting readings done, and there's a lot of sites you can just go to and pay to have a chart done. Yeah. And so I had one done and it literally said, stay mysterious.
Oh, that's funny.
Stay mysterious
don't
and
answer
magical.
the question. I think it is magical. I don't know what answer you could give me that wouldn't be like out of this world.
It's an interesting thing because it's really, I look at the chart and I have the technical knowledge of astrology, right?
Clearly.
But then it is like imagine I connect. So I open myself up to receive the cosmic energies. I call in my angels, guides, and ancestors. I set intention, and then I just ask to receive the divine guidance. And so with a client who's sitting in front of me, I, ask like, do you have an intention? What are you seeking guidance on? What is coming up for you? Why are you here, essentially? And then from that, I look at the chart and then things start moving and just the story starts pouring in. And so it's part conversation with the person, but then it eventually turns into just the information coming out and pouring through, just based on planet placement, house placement, and just whatever showing up. Yeah.
I'm thinking when I channel and I learn things as I go. So you would be receiving and learning stuff about the different signs and things that you don't really find in books. So I feel like they get more bang for their buck when they come and see you, because you're picking up on different things, and then you're learning at the same time new information about things that happen with this particular sign, and maybe how they're reacting, and with the stereotypical stuff. Like there's different ways of evolving through those signs as well, I believe. That's leading to the question. Like, actually, I would love you to clarify this. So just agree with what I said. That's great. And then the next part, I remember. Hey,
I'm the hypnotherapist.
Sorry.
Hypnosis. Agree with what I said.
It just reminded me. And if I forget, if I forget, I'll kick myself. I remember reading that for every star sign, say it's a sun sign, there's different levels of evolution. So there's like different like animals. So say for Scorpio, because I was reading about mine, Scorpio is the first one. And then there's other levels, and you get right up to like Phoenix at the end. So you have a different maturity levels of like your sign. So, when they do the stereotype that a Scorpio is like a jealous and things like that, and secretive, that might be like the lower, younger version, and you can progress through your sign stages or something. Does that make any sense to you? Because I remember reading
it makes total sense. Yes, it makes total sense. Because it does. Like we do mature through the signs. Right. The signs mature on their own without us also. Okay. So if you look at the like astrology sign, not our individual signs, but just the chart of astrology, the first house is Aries. So the astrological chart starts with Aries. It's the baby fire sign. Then it goes Taurus, which is the first fire sign or earth sign. Then it goes Gemini, first air sign, and then Cancer, first water sign. So those are the first signs, the first representations of each of the elements. So they're a little bit more on the immature side, meaning that they're a little bit more like whippy snappy. in like all of their characteristics, like the seedlings of each of the signs. And then as you move around the chart and you start moving into, so after Cancer, you have Leo, then Virgo, then Scorpio, then Sagittarius. It moves through the same elemental order. These ones are a little bit more, or did I say Scorpio, Sagittarius? It's Leo, Virgo. I always forget this one. Libra, I am so bad. I leave Libra out all the time. I'm so sorry. It goes Leo, Virgo, Libra, and then Scorpio. So that's the next set of signs. I always leave Libra out. I don't know.
They're like the
why.
teenagers. So got the children and the teenagers.
And then the teenagers. And then it develops. Then next you go into the Scorpio, Sagittarius, or Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And so then those are the much more mature signs. And so they go from personal, interpersonal, transpersonal signs as well. So it's the signs that are closest to us, our personal experiences that we have, our interpersonal, our relational experiences that we have, and then the transpersonal, the relationships we have with the powers that be, with bigger education systems, government, astrology as a whole, you know, the bigger just overall arcing systems. So we have these different relationships with each different one. And so on your individual astrology chart, like your degrees, like you might be 0 degrees Scorpio. So you're a very young Scorpio. You might be 15 degrees. So each house has 30 degrees in it. So then your sign, there's a degree that goes with that. Where are you in that degree, right? For that planet in that sign. And so you might have a 30-degree Sagittarius, like Mercury in Sagittarius. You have a very probably mature expression of communication and understanding of technology as it relates to also the Sagittarian qualities of the mind and the greater expansiveness and philosophy of life.
I've heard people talking I've had readings before and they've talked about degrees and stuff, and it's never made sense. How come we're talking to you and it makes so much sense to me now? You're just good at explaining.
But that's the magic and the mystery of astrology.
Maybe. Amazing. So that's where they got that from. Maybe they're talking about degrees, but they're just trying to make it sound more fun by other animals within your sign or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about the other animals.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
I wasn't sure about that, but I go by the degrees.
Maturity. Yeah, great. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there was something else. I don't remember. It'll come back. It's meant to be said.
Okay, good. I think it's interesting that because it's there feels like there's a psychic element to it in a sense, which is the reading, the part where you actually read.
Yeah.
So to get into that kind of reading mode, do you do some kind of meditation or ritual, or what do you do to get into that when you're doing? Is it called a reading? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. When you go into that reading, what do you do?
For me, it depends on the environment. So, last weekend or a couple of weeks ago, I was in the middle of the intuitive guidance program at SWIHA. I was teaching it. And so I was teaching the day on astrology and tarot. And at one point, it was a smaller class. So I was like, all right, what we're going to do is I'm going to give all of you an intuitive reading, like 15 minutes of astrology each. And so I literally went around the room with each of them. And it was just a matter of like grounding and centering myself. Now, I will say this about the environment is that we had been in this very strong environment where we had been in ritual, like it was a 100-hour ritual, essentially, this class. And so I was able in that environment to just simply drop in. It was a super safe environment. We were all there for the same reason. We all wanted to be in that space. And so it was very easy for all of us to connect. And so I just ground and center. I call in my angels, guides, and ancestors. I
freeze.
You freeze on the screen.
Yep,
Is this where we blame Mercury retrograde as well?
She's just connected very well. Oh, there she is. Hang on, she's catching up.
Also frozen.
Oh, okay. We can hear you again, which is lovely.
You'll catch up in a second.
I feel like we leave this in if it clears up, because it's great. Yes, you're back. Yes, Mercury retrograde, you're back.
We're back. All right, internet, we need you. We need you to work.
We're grateful. Thank you.
Sending my computer Reiki energy so that it continues to work for this. Yay. Okay. What was the last thing you heard?
Okay. So asking your angels and guides and ancestors.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I ground in center with, I ground, basically, I imagine myself connecting deep to the crystalline core of the earth. I draw that energy up through my body, through my heart, all the way up and out of my crown, where I imagine my 1,000-petal lotus basically opening into a giant flower in which I invite in the cosmic energies of the zodiac, of the planets, and I ask to receive the divine guidance. And it's all about, when I do readings, it's how does the reading relate to what's going on in your life right now? And how does it support you in finding a solution to the circumstance or answer the question that you're asking? So it's not, I don't really just do overall, unless I'm doing a natal chart report. It's all usually very intuitional because it's directly connected to, like, if I was doing oracle card readings and I flip 3 cards, I'll look at the imagery, I'll look at the words, I'll look at the numbers, I'll see what is this card saying, and then I get those intuitional messages. It's the same thing when I'm doing an astrology chart, except instead of the cards, I have your planets, your houses, and your zodiacs.
Just data.
It's just data. And then the intuition comes to weave through the places that we don't see, the information that the charts don't say, which is how it relates to the person in the here and now.
Awesome.
Wow. What an amazing calling.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Love it.
It's special. I love it. I'm very lucky.
And I love how you explained about the lotus, because that brings in like your yoga like training, and that's because you teach that. So I just like, of course you imagine the huge lotus flower as well. Bringing all the aspects of what you know. Beautiful.
Yeah,
I believe that's Buddha's head. Yeah, it looks like Buddha's got some headdress thing on, but that's actually the 1,000.
Those who can't see yet.
That's completely opened up and gone down over the head. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so there's a lot of that influence from the yoga as well that you pull in.
Yeah. So I did, it's really interesting. So I did yoga teacher training 7 years. I've been practicing yoga since I was 19. I actually did I was doing like energetic yoga when I was 19. It was like this Korean style yoga where I grew up. It was this tiny little studio. I had no idea. It was called Dawn Yoga. I think it's a cult that.
Oh, she froze again.
Must be cold.
It's all right.
It's the cult leaders from Dawn Yoga that have closed it down. Their power is very strong.
Yeah, because she just got offended that she called it a cult. It's coming back.
Come back.
We
can hear you.
There we are. To move.
I think it was the cult leader is very strong.
I think so too.
Energy control.
Apologies. Anyway,
no, don't worry.
So I started studying that when I was like 19. And then I was in my early 20s. I got into Ashtanga yoga at a yoga studio. I was living in DC, and I just absolutely fell in love with like the physical process of asana. And that was 7 years ago. And when I was a student at SWIHA, I went there for yoga teacher training and an integrative healing arts practitioner program. And I took a life coaching course. And what was interesting is, like, back then I was not this woman sitting in front of you. I was traumatized. I was sad. I was like going through I was in the healing process. I am healed. I'm out of the healing process, and it's an entirely different experience of life. And it feels great. So thank you, healing journey.
Yes.
Like it comes to completion, I promise, if you let it. But so I'm actually auditing the yoga teacher training program again right now. We're coming to completion in about 3 weeks. But what I realized is, like, I went from yoga teacher training into a life coaching program, and life coaching is yoga philosophy. And I didn't see that connection back then. But as I'm in YTT again right now, I'm like reading yogic texts and yogic philosophy. And I'm like, this is all life coaching. This is just life coaching in a different language. It's the same thing.
Well, depends on what you resonate with when you're learning, I guess.
Exactly. It's just like, it's all like, and that's what I'm finding in all of these different things is, like, I'm also a trained hypnotherapist. And so it's like, it's how do we be happier and live better lives? And these are just tools that help us to do those different types of things. And so like when I bring in like the yoga, it's like, I forgot the yoga for a little while. I forgot the yoga philosophy, and I went deep into coaching rhetoric and like coaching skills and all of that. And then after quarantine, I'm like, I need some grounding. I need a container. I need just a training to like hold me. And so I decided to do yoga teacher training, and I'm like, oh, full circle full circle here, like right back to where I started, but like in a totally different mindset capacity and understanding of like what I'm learning.
Yeah.
And where did the Reiki come in?
Yeah, you mentioned Reiki.
Yeah, where did the Reiki come in?
Oh, I did Reiki. When did I do Reiki? Back in 2018, I did my Reiki training. Also here in Arizona, not at Sweet High. I did it with an individual practitioner. But when I was in my yoga teacher training, I did that too. Yeah.
Good combination. You have all the modalities covered, which I love. So that way you can bring in any element for your client that you are guided to, which is what I do. I love being able to mix some modalities. It's beautiful. So then you can just, with the time they have with you, they just get way more. So yeah, because you can just tap into so many different things, which is great.
It's whatever they need.
Yeah.
It's whatever they need. And then there's like the things I'm like trained in, which is like women's studies and women's ancient rituals and things like that. Like we still haven't quite gotten that into the college level yet. The powers that be of the accreditation boards don't quite understand, ritual in the way that like we understand ritual, but it's all relative. We do rituals all the time. But yeah, it's powerful work. Goddess work, goddess faith, and like understanding that whole lineage has been super empowering. And it's all connected to astrology. All of it.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. So do you think the rituals and those things are kind of taking advantage of the energies that are around at the times, with astrology? Is it just like a way of harnessing some of that energy to do more with it?
Yeah, you can't separate the two. A lot like ancient rituals were crafted around the astrology, and like the rituals we do now are in alignment with the moon cycles and the energy of the astrological signs, that to better harness it. Like that's exactly what it is. It's like these energies exist whether or not we are paying attention to them. But when we do pay attention to them, things tend to go the way that we ask them to, or that, because we're choosing to be a part of the energy rather than resisting it. It's a natural flow, but you just have to be aware of it. And once you're aware of it, you'd be surprised about how naturally you just start seeing synchronicities or coincidences. Or really,
exactly.
Really, you're in the flow and you're in the cycle, and things start to move in that direction.
Yep. Can you give examples? Sorry. When you said like the rituals that we do now, people might, like a lot of people would have negative connotations with rituals. They think of them as a negative thing. Is there an example of just like a modern day ritual that people do or celebrate that they don't even know they're doing? So you can.
Oh yeah, brushing your teeth.
Sorry,
brushing your teeth is a ritual.
There you go. Yep.
Waking up at the same time every day is a ritual. Like ritual is just the act of doing something consciously and on purpose with intention.
Right.
That's what a ritual is.
Good definition. Yeah.
Now, when we do it in the capacity that we're talking about, we're connecting not just with, we don't want to have bad breath and we want good dental hygiene. We're connecting with, the energies of the stars and the moons and of the earth and of the seasons. Right. And so, what a festival looks like, or a seasonal festival might look like right now, when you have the spring equinox, right? Like that is a beautiful time to celebrate the coming of spring. You have Easter egg hunts, right? Like you have Ostara, Easter, Ostara comes, and you do like, church is a ritual. Easter is a ritual. If you the Christian lineage, that's all ritual, most of it pagan ritual that was just renamed and put into that faith. But really it's all ritual. And if you're wondering, like, what is this witchcraft or ritual you're doing? Here's what it normally looks like. It's a bunch of us sitting in a backyard in a circle with a fire pit, talking about our lives and choosing consciously how we want to shift and change. And we have crystals and we have candles and we have herbs.
You're not naked and sacrificing lambs.
No, we leave that to the Catholics. No, I'm just
kidding.
Kidding. I'm also a recovering Catholic.
Recovering Catholic. We have a lot of people like that on our show. Funnily enough, a lot of people are recovering from some religion or another.
Form of religion, absolutely.
Most of us,
yeah.
A lot of recovering Catholics over here, reconnecting to our actual roots of faith and what is true for us in our deepest core of soul. But yeah, no, we don't sacrifice. There's no cannibalism. There's just usually a bunch of women in flowing dresses, meditating together and setting intention and burning
Beautiful
pieces of
energy.
paper and doing yoga.
Mhm.
Sound healing.
We don't get put on
Cow.
a stake for doing that anymore. That's great.
Well,
Yeah.
fingers crossed. I don't know if you know what's going on here in the United States, but fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but it sounds very powerful because it's about understanding nature, understanding energies, and then being able to flow with them and use them. And so doing that is you have to go out of your comfort zone a little bit, and you have to deliberately do things that are a little bit different to what you'd normally do.
Mhm.
It sounds rational to me.
Yeah, right? It's pretty rational. Pretty rational.
Intuitive lifestyle educator, like,
Mm.
does that encompass all of the tools that you have for individual clients? Like, is that what that is?
It does. Yeah. That is the best title I could come up with that encompasses everything that I do. And because clients are so different, every person is so different. And so what one person needs is different from what another person needs. Right. And what one person, so I have all of these tools when you come to see me for a soul embodiment session, or you just book a 60-minute session. It's just, what is it that's calling to you most? Sometimes it's the cards. A lot of people do come to me specifically for the intuitive astrology piece of things, because not everyone's an astrologer, whereas a lot more people can, do oracle cards. So that is a piece of it. But yeah, the intuitive lifestyle, that's yoga, it's wellness, it's meditation, it's art, it's socializing. It's literally just intuition. Inherently is your ability to listen to the inner voice that's in your head, that's guiding you towards what you know you really want, deserve, and desire in your life. If you trust yourself enough to listen to that voice that's directing you, again, not negative or positive, it's not going to be a good or bad. It's just the right decision that you know you want to make for yourself, using discernment, of course. Like, I preach discernment and using your lived experience and wisdom of your lived experience to trust and listen to your intuition and take that action. But at the end of the day, it's like, do you trust yourself enough to listen to the voice that's guiding you towards your greater and higher good? And that's what I want people to reconnect to, is that inner trust. That's intuition.
Yeah. So kind of away from the conditioning of your life up to this point and going back to what really drives you.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pointing back to that then. So there's a lot of work in pointing back to that and coming back to what drives you or what's important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And that's what people seem to be seeking when they, enter into the healing arts or into a yoga journey or intuitional journey, whatever it is they're seeking that feeling inside that says it's okay to be me. And these are the things that it's okay. And it's a process though. Like it's a slow process and walk.
Yep. It's a journey. And yeah, I just resonating with the name. You must have channeled that, the Soul Stylist. That just makes perfect sense to exactly what you do. Someone's happy to go hire a stylist and help them do their wardrobe, but spending the actual time, because you deserve it, on yourself to make sure everything's in flow. Like when you work on all those different areas in your life, you will be more in flow. And then, hey, you'll just know which clothes suit you, I reckon, after that, because you'll just be so in flow.
Exactly. Oh, you'd be surprised. Your house changes, your wardrobe, everything starts to shift.
Well, you're bringing your inner god or goddess out, which is what I love helping people with. So I'm just loving everything you're putting out, just bringing that part out of you, so you know what you deserve. You intuitively be guided to the right foods, the right type of exercise, the right type of style that brings out your inner best self. And so then you radiate out and share all that. You'll just, you'll be more drawn to maybe healthier foods to reward yourself with instead of junk food, because you're treating your body as a temple. Which I just love giving that advice. Just a reward should be something good for you, not something that actually ends up punishing you later. Yeah, I love it. I love the name, and I love that you like the go-to person to just help someone. Okay, where should I start? What should I do? Let's go.
Yeah, you just described my Soul Stylist brand better than I've ever described the things.
Awesome. We'll keep that bit of the recording, and you can put that
yeah, that's right.
I'm channeling.
Keep it in your voice. And stay in the Australian voice, though. We're gonna trip people
does
up.
that sound okay?
Yeah, that's right.
You can say it. Just repeat my words. It's all good. You can have it. It's free. It's channel. It's fine.
So people that are coming to see you are like ready for change, I guess, in their life. I see a lot of people that, it's interesting you do hypnotherapy. A lot of what I help people with is often when there's certain things that have come up and they know they want to do something, but then, you know, they need help to be able to actually do it, do the change, make the change happen. It sounds like with the Soul Stylist, where people are ready for change, like you can come in and then facilitate them to do that with flow rather than the hard way.
Yeah, I'd agree with that statement. That is definitely the type of person that comes to see me. It's like and it's everything from career to like relationship, personal experience. Like it's just folks who genuinely just want to be happy and are seeking a better lifestyle for themselves. And these are just the tools that I use to help people create better lifestyles. You know, some people use extreme exercise and nutrition, and like, I don't use any of that stuff. It's not my jam, but I will definitely read your chart. And if it is about nutrition, send you to a great nutritionist. I've got those in my back pocket. But that's exactly what it is. It's people who are just like seeking that change, that fulfillment in their life, and are trying to get into a better flow. And just need a little guidance.
And not fighting the planets and star constellations or whatever else affects us while we're on this planet. Not fighting those things, going with it to make it like an easier path. Yeah,
you can be a bit easier on yourself too. If you know that might be a sticky time for you, just breathe and get on with life.
Yep.
Exactly. So cool. So people like that aren't local to you, can you do these you do Zooms and things like that? Like how can people reach you that aren't in Arizona?
Oh, yes. Well, you can find me at my website, thesoulstylistco.com. You can email me, Sharon at the-soulstylist.com. Instagram, _soul stylist.
Awesome.
And we can do these on Zoom. You send me your information and we can either do like a live call where it's an intuitional session where I am we have a little conversation. I look at your chart and then we go from there. Or if you wanted me to do a full on natal chart report, where like that I take a full lunar cycle to do. So I start those on the new moon and then I build them all like I'm doing the chart all the way through. And then we schedule a session to discuss the chart once it's done.
Wow, that's in depth. I haven't seen it done like that before. They just pump in some numbers and send you some chart and ta-da.
Yeah.
Like you're actually tracking. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really specific too.
Yeah.
Like going really specific into things. So I guess one thing, like a lot of people that talk about how, you know, people that study the stars are just, you know, whatever, they're just making stuff up. It's like, you know, gypsies in a wagon. The difference is how like specific you are. Like it's very different to the back of the newspaper that's just trying to do a blanket over everyone. It doesn't, yeah.
Usually they don't make sense, those ones. If it's just one sign, it takes nothing into consideration.
That's the whole thing about it. Like that's exactly what it is. It's supposed to be fun and like, but what's great about it is it has always kept astrology in the mainstream, even if it was in a very slow way.
Positive spin. Good job.
Yeah, it has always kept us visible. And now it's just with internet and TikTok and all these other, forget it. They'll never be able to shut down astrology if they ever wanted to.
Yeah, why would you? It's as old as time itself, really.
But what you're doing gives it more, I think, credibility as well, because a lot of people talk it down, but it's like it's really not specific. It's not, you know, looking at how it's applied in your life. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's no like fortune telling. There's no future. I don't tell the future or anything like that. It's all very practical in the here and now.
Excellent.
And that's why I like it.
Awesome.
So we can't walk around and say like I'm a Pisces anymore and use it as an excuse, because that's like, what do you mean you're a Pisces?
Yeah, they're going to be like, well, what planet
February.
is it? Venus?
You're born in March. Well done. Yeah.
What house are you in?
Okay,
what does
cool.
that even mean?
Okay, cool. I love it. I'm going to use that now. Anyone that makes some excuse, they say, oh, she's a bit of a Sagittarius. I'm like, what house?
Yeah.
Your rising or your moon?
What house? Yeah. What house? What planet? Where from? Where was she even born? So this is rubbish. I'm out.
Yep. Stop stereotyping.
And then I'll pass your card. I'll just talk to her.
I love it. I'll send you some. I'll snail mail it to you.
Beautiful. Just talk to Shaz. Talk to
I was
Shaz
just gonna say, yep.
from Arizona, and Shaz also, yeah, she knows.
I'm
She
gonna
knows the
create
stars.
an Australian business card just to send to you guys to hand out to
Please
people.
do.
Wonderful. You will get no work as Shazza, but
Rose
that's fine.
knows stars.
No one
Shazza
will call
Rose
you.
knows. I love it.
Rose
Shazza
knows.
Rose knows. Fantastic.
There it is.
This
I
is
love
how
it.
you channel your business name. It's
You
great.
heard it first. I'm Nick the Psychic. Mercury is definitely in retrograde. Let's stop making business decisions. There's plenty of space out
Oh
there
yeah.
to be in our
Maybe do
heads.
the
This is
opposite
just
of what I
proof.
just said. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Smart man. Cards
All
will
right,
probably
thank you.
never arrive.
if I've learned anything from this podcast, that's right. Yeah.
Well, Shazza Rose, thank you so much for being on our podcast. We've had super fun and we really love meeting you. You're so insightful and we really are resonating and loving. And I'm sure all the listeners and watchers would be too of how detailed your readings are. And the intuitive astrology part just sounds absolutely fascinating. So please go follow her, like her, and send her all the love because we really appreciate you being on our podcast.
Yes, thank you
Thank you,
so much
Sharon.
for having me. This has been so much fun. You two are amazing.
That's it for another episode, but that doesn't have to be the end of the conversation.
Feel free to leave your comments on our YouTube channel, or for those podcast listeners, you can email us at mickandthepsychic@gmail.com to leave your feedback or questions.
I'm a certified hypnotherapist and timeline regression therapist. If you wish to contact me to explore the source of an issue you're facing, just book a session at hearnhypnosis.com.au and include the promo code MATP for 10% off. You can contact me on Insta and Facebook at hearnhypnosis.
Check out my website at optimisticxavier.com.au if you feel you'd like to connect with me as a psychic medium, spiritual mentor, or intuitive coach. Include the promo code MATP for 10% discount. You can also find me on Insta, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
We look forward to connecting with you again next time as we attempt to leave no stone unturned.
Bye.
All right, cool. I reckon that should be okay.